Welcome, Master Chris Brake, to the Health Pro guest show. You are one of the first guests that I had on. I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to help educate and support and bring light to some areas in the health and fitness industry that people oftentimes have questions to. We're going to get right into that in just a minute, but before I do that, this is for initially the Hintonation clients who are wanting to hear a little bit more about different topics in the fitness industry. So it's a great time for them to be listening in on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. as they're going for their evening walk or Thursday morning walks, and just be able to have something that they can let their mind kind of daze into as they're going into their day too. But again, I appreciate your time, man. Chris, you became a physical therapist and totally certified in your designation September 2020. So it's been a couple of years you've been doing this now. Your title is Master Chris Brake. And can you explain a little bit more into that and what that means? And then we'll get right into some of these questions.
Yeah, so basically the way the hierarchy works, like I got my bachelor's degree, went to physio school for my master's, which was 2 years. Completed my master's in September 2020. So I'm a master in physical therapy or physiotherapy, whatever colloquial term you want to use. Finished school, 2020, and then I got my full license. We had to go through licensing exams. They were backed up, so I was working while I was studying for those. Finished those February 2022, so like became a certified registered physical therapist. So yeah, all the school's done and behind me now. So master of physical therapy, and that's that.
That's awesome, man. I'd love to hear it. I'm super happy to be able to witness you from the very beginning right up to where you're at now. And for those,
I think honestly, you probably inspired me back in grade 9 with the little shoulder subluxation. And ever since then, I was like, I need to learn how to prevent this so it doesn't happen again.
Never ever let that go, eh? Ruined you. Chris and I went to high school together, and then following out of high school, he went straight into his university studies and really buckled down into things where I worked a bunch of random jobs just trying to make some cash and never really focusing on a whole lot until, of course, doing what I'm doing now. So but it's been awesome to see what you're doing, man. So let's get right into it. Let's talk a little bit about your morning routine. Do you have a morning routine, something that you kind of stick to that's almost like non-negotiable to get your day started?
Yeah, so I actually do. So I work afternoons at the private clinic. So my morning routine is usually, well, not usually, it's I get up, I make coffee, I have breakfast, and then I go to the gym. So that's like within the first hour and a half, I've had coffee, I've eaten, and I'm at the gym. Okay. That's pretty standard, non-negotiable, how I like to start my day.
Sweet. And what time do you normally get up and get started with your day?
It does depend because I do work afternoons, and so I work later into nights. So it depends on whatnot. But I usually like to try and get up anywhere between 7 and 8 a.m.
Okay.
I can't get up too early because then I'll burn myself out by the time it's 1 p.m. when I start work. Then you're just too ambitious. You start doing all this stuff, and then oh shit, I've been up for 6 hours hauling ass, and now I gotta go to work.
Yeah.
I gotta save some energy in the tank for sure.
That totally makes sense. Let me ask you too, because a lot of people do have a morning routine, or they think that having a morning routine is good for them, but why? What is the significance about that? Why even bother having this morning routine? Why is it not an afternoon routine, or for you, what does that mean?
Honestly, it's just getting my day started. And it's simple. I literally wake up, I put my coffee on, I do my little morning, whatever, then make my scrambled eggs and toast, eat that, finish my coffee, and then time to hit the gym. And by the time I'm back, it's, 9:30, 10:30, whatever it is that day. I still got a few hours to tackle whatever I want to do before I head to work. So I think it's just more about getting up and then getting started. It's just kind of fire me up for the day.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks, man. What would you say is the most common question that you get from clients?
Yeah, so one of the most common things that I get is people want to know what's going on with them. So in the clinic, people are coming in because they hurt themselves, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's from either working or from exercising or doing an activity like biking or whatever sport it is that they play. So they always want to know like what's going on, and they oftentimes focus more on what's going on versus like what can I do now. So I would say like the majority of people just want to know what's going on versus the really proactive people want like, okay, look, what's next? Like, how do I get from here back to where I was? So I find
Makes
it pretty
sense.
interesting to see people are just like so concerned of like, oh, what happened versus, all right, where do we go from here?
Yeah, right. And that's, it seems like to me, it seems like a no-brainer, but you're obviously getting that question a lot. It's like and the answer probably for you, which you probably bite your tongue in saying with people, is like, does it matter? Like, it doesn't matter what happened to get
Yeah,
there, right?
I know, and that's the thing. Like in physio, and because there's so much research going out and saying like, doesn't really matter. If it's not something serious, like you didn't fracture anything, you don't have a complete rupture, like you didn't blow your Achilles tendon, and there's no like serious neurological condition, like we screen all that kind of stuff. So if
Mhm.
it's nothing like serious, we're like, we need to like go see a surgeon or like go get some further medical imaging or whatever. Then it
Mhm.
doesn't really matter at that point because then it's like soft tissue and it's all about just like building it back up. But it's
Right.
tough because people will come in and they're scared, right? People are
Yeah.
scared. They hurt themselves, something doesn't feel right. They can't do their activity and they're worried and they think that knowing what's going on is going to make them feel better. But that's not really the case. It's like, okay, what's the going forward? So I
Yeah.
think the biggest question is like, what is it? What's happening?
Yeah. And that would almost like, I imagine that also kind of plays into like a negative mindset by wanting to know how the issue became apparent, because
Mm-hmm.
that, had they known, which you probably, it's probably a bit of a loaded question, like you don't know exactly what they're doing every single day all the time, and that's
Mm-hmm.
hard for you to answer anyways. But imagine you could answer and be like, actually it's because you did this one thing on this one day. Like, what does that tell somebody? It shows them, like, I imagine it shows them that like, I should never ever do that thing, or I should always be extra careful about that. Where the reality
Mm-hmm.
is like, let's get that tissue strong and
Mm-hmm.
rehab it back to health, and now you don't have to worry about those things anymore because you have the ability to do it again, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things too. Is say for example, like you're out mountain biking and you fall and like you hurt your shoulder. First thing you do, you go to the X-ray, like get an X-ray at the emergency clinic. Maybe you're 40, 50 years old and the X-ray shows mild arthritis. You
Mhm.
probably had mild arthritis for 5 to 6 years,
For
but now
sure.
you're just finding out about it, and now you're wondering if the arthritis is causing pain. And now
Yeah.
it's all in your head about like, oh, this probably is like, no, maybe not just the fall, but it's the arthritis. But that could have not have had anything to do with it. Like there's been
Yeah.
studies showing that like if you take 100 people, do MRIs of their backs, 50% will have disc bulges without pain, 50% will have disc bulges with pain. So why the discrepancy? So it's
Mhm.
just like it is negatively reinforcing sometimes when you might find out something about yourself that's
Mhm.
irrelevant, but then you kind of make it relevant. Whereas
Yeah.
just looking like you said, of what happened was you had an incident, you injured tissues, you need to go through the healing process, strengthen your soft tissues, and get back. There's like
Okay.
nothing more to it essentially.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of definitely an interesting negative mindset.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions about your practice?
I would say, well, it depends on where you work for sure, because there's different
Okay.
fields of physio. But in the private clinic, because we'll focus there with the gym, is that we really focus on just like simple rehabilitation style exercises, and
Mhm.
like we're not getting people like stronger in the sense to like compete. Like if you go to the clinic, like oh we'll get some simple banded exercises, and then like I'll feel a bit better, but then I have to like do more on my own. So I think people think of us as like just a like really acute phase. Like I sprained my ankle a week ago. I have to go to physio initially, and then I have to do like more after and go find someone else after. So I think they get kind of categorized in like sometimes smaller scale of recovery.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so for them, like, let's use that as an example. They bust their ankle, they go see physio for a week, and then after that, you're saying that a lot of times they're then going to find other types of therapy to continue, or
Yeah, so I would say they would continue for like, your a few sessions over the course of a few weeks until they feel better and the
Mhm.
pain is gone. And then once
Okay.
the pain is gone, they think they're done with physio.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, just because your pain's gone doesn't mean you're fully recovered. Like your
Yeah.
balance could be still atrocious. You probably don't
Yeah.
have equal strength left to right because it's been 6 weeks and you haven't been training the same. Your ability to like single land and like jump and land on one leg is probably decreased, and like
Yeah.
all those other pieces are likely missing, and they often are, but because financially or whatever, but because they don't have that pain anymore and they can still do the activity, they think they're done with physio. So then
Gotcha.
they stop, and then they go about whatever it is they're doing after.
So do the prescribed exercises for the entire period that I tell you. I don't care if it stops hurting. Just keep doing it.
Just keep going.
And then
Just
get a
keep going.
final assessment at the end for that full go ahead. Yeah, go PR. You're ready now.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we feel like we do recovery in like 4 phases. It's like initial healing phase, then you have your remodeling phase when your like tissues and scar tissues are building up and you're trying to make it nice and linear. Then you have your phase 3, which is like beginning strength, and that's when most pain is gone and people leave. And then
Mhm.
phase 4 is return to sport. And like we rarely ever see people in return to sport because they're like just return on themselves.
Yeah.
And I've had people who've rolled their ankles and then they return to sport without like doing more rehab, like
Yeah.
functional gym-based rehab, like cutting drills, like pivoting, jumping, landing, like making sure like you're actually doing a strict regime. And then
Mhm.
they come back 2 months later because they rolled their ankle again,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, so it's interesting thing for sure.
Okay. Okay. What would you say is your best tip for people to help improve their health markers? If they could just do one thing.
The best thing, if you want to just improve your overall health markers, is hit 150 minutes of like moderate to high intensity cardio exercise a week. And that'd be like
Okay.
walking, hiking, biking, swimming, like elevate that heart rate to like, you know, 80% of your predicted max. So 220
Okay.
minus your age, and then hit 150 minutes. Like if you have a healthy heart and good blood flow, like you're moving your muscles, like that'll improve your health markers. Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And most people, if you were to like be in the gym, most people have a pretty low heart rate when they're working out because you do on a bench, I'm gonna sit there for 2 minutes, heart rate is nice and low, I'm on my phone, push it again, all right, hanging out, right? So you
Yeah.
don't really hit it very often if you actually track it.
Right. Okay. So, okay, good. So 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise, which for you, when you're making this tangible, you're saying this has to be 80% of your max heart rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
moderate
for
to high intensity.
so for myself, I'm 27. That brings me to 193 would be my max. And that
Mm-hmm.
means that 80% of that is 154 beats per minute. So I should be somewhere between 154 and call it 175 or even a little bit
Yeah.
higher sometimes. So 150 minutes. And so that could even be, you could technically be somewhere at like 2.5 sessions a week. Like you could be doing like 2 weight training sessions a week and 1 cardio session or vice versa. Like, does that work that way? Or when you say
Yeah, absolutely.
cardio, okay.
Like it
Okay.
doesn't, yeah, I don't say cardio being like like it can be anything, but
Okay.
it's like whatever gets you there.
Yeah. Whatever gets that heart
Right.
rate up there. That's more
Yeah,
specific
whatever
to what
gets you
you're
there.
talking
Because you
about.
can do,
Okay.
because a lot of people super set in the gym and like they do like my girlfriend never rests. She's in the gym 60 minutes. She has her main lifts and then she's doing like accessory lifts throughout her rest, which is crazy. Beyond me. But
Yeah.
her heart rate's up there the entire time.
Okay.
So it's like whatever kind of gets you to that 150-minute threshold of like 80%, like that's gonna really be where you're seeing your improvements in your health.
Interesting. Okay, that's great. And is this more I'm just speculating, but I'm guessing that you're talking about this with respect to heart rate because of the direct impact it's going to have on metabolic health. Is that going to be why you're looking at it there, or is this more on like
Yeah,
heart health like Okay.
It's like all health. Like when your
Okay.
heart rate's up, like you're looking at heart health, metabolic health, right? Your blood flow distribution to your muscles, the ability for your muscles to actually extract oxygen and nutrients, your
Okay.
lungs, the ability for your lungs to, intake oxygen and exchange it with the blood. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, it's like the whole system's connected.
Sweet. Okay, cool. It's good to know then. Now, so now we know what you think your best tips would be on improving health markers. And that's like you're talking about that as like a bit of a macro state. So we're looking on a weekly basis. If you could just
Mhm.
give somebody like a daily, simple, non-negotiable thing that they could do to serve their bodies best, what would that be?
Mhm.
Something that anybody could do.
So what they used to say was bouts of like 10 minutes.
Mhm.
But the newest research that came out at the end of 2021 showed that even bouts of like 5 minutes of moving was beneficial on heart health. So,
Wow.
for example, yeah, just as little as 5 minutes at a time. So, the simplest things is like, avoiding the elevators and all that stuff, right? Like, take the stairs.
Yeah.
Walk little distances to go get things as like, if you live near a grocery store, you live somewhere, like, don't drive if it's like a few minutes away. Spend the extra 5-10 minutes to kind of walk the distance, or just
Okay.
go out for a walk in the evening for like 10 minutes, just to kind of have some wind down time instead of like throwing on a Netflix show and just sitting on the couch. It's like
Gotcha.
it can be as small as like 5 minutes at a time that
Mhm.
actually has been shown in research to improve like health over the long
Okay. Cool. Let me challenge that a little bit and say, like, could you use static exercise as that 5 minutes? Like, could you do like a dead hang or a plank, intermittently and get to 5 minutes of exercise that way still?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Because like
okay.
when you're doing like a dead plank or a plank, you're really challenging your muscles. You won't need your heart rate as high, but what you're going to do is you're going to deplete the energy in your muscles, and
Okay.
then your metabolic rate is going to be increased long after you've done the activity. So
Okay.
you'll be kind of like burning calories and like all that after uh, you've done the exercises, because you've
Right.
depleted it. So your heart rate will be a little bit higher for a longer term afterwards. Your oxygen intake is going to be a little bit higher afterwards. This is like this post exercise effect of like weight training.
Yeah.
But that's basically, it's like you just got to do something for 5 minutes that challenges you or gets you going, gets you moving, and you're going to have benefits.
That
You
is
just can't
so
be
cool.
sedentary. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is awesome to hear because we've all heard at some one point or another, a lot of people have felt like they genuinely don't have time. They have kids, they're working a couple jobs, and just doing anything at all just seem anything out on top of what they're already doing every day would be way too overwhelming and unsustainable. But
Mhm.
like, I'm imagining like 5 minutes in between, like every commercial. If anyone still has cable out there, but any commercial, like you
Mhm.
just drop and hit a plank until the commercial's over, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and one of the ways I do is like people that work in the office, like I get them to put a timer for an hour and a half, and then every time that timer goes off, like you're doing 5 to 10 sit stands,
Okay.
right? So by the end of the day, you've probably hit almost like 50 to 60.
Hmm.
So like you've got 50 to 60 squats essentially in the day, which is like all things that are going to really, have a good improvement in your health for the long term, especially
Right.
doing it every day, right?
Yep. Yeah. And if you're looking at exercises like a total volume thing rather than just the intensity during that period, like you
Hmm.
can you can get a lot of good results out of doing that over time too.
Yeah.
Um, what about like a healthy snack, like an easy, simple, healthy snack you can whip together real quick at home? What would you do?
Yeah, my go-to is all natural peanut butter, banana, and some rolled oats. And like,
Nice.
yeah, you can kind of play with it. So I make it like a morning oats. So I do all natural peanut butter. Um, I put it with some rolled oats. I add some Greek yogurt. I like mash up banana, put that in there. Add some cocoa powder to
Okay.
kind of like give it some flavor. Depending on like the consistency, if I wanted a little bit more like creamy, I'll add some water, or if I'm really frisky one day, I'll put in some milk. And then I let that sit overnight, and then the next morning, oh man, the roll those just like soak it all in, and yeah, it's like
Dang.
good milk too, like good carbs, like no sugar added, right? So like
Yeah.
all natural protein, the cocoa powder, and the peanut. Like it's like his favorite for sure.
So how do you, okay, so you're saying you normally don't even add water to that.
No, I normally do. I normally do.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
I normally do.
so it's kind of
There's
like an
been-
overnight oats thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
There's been a few times in my life where I've been like a little too busy and was like didn't give myself the time, so I just threw it all together and mixed it up, and it was just you're just chewing that.
It's still the same nutrients, right? It's just not as easy to get through.
Yeah, exactly.
I was in my mom's place and I was whipping together something. I had like we were all busy, we were hanging out all day and doing stuff together, and then by the end of the night, it was like 10:30 at night, and I had like 1,100 calories to eat still. And so I put together, it was like a banana, 75 or 150, I forget, grams of raisins, a scoop of protein powder. It was like 45 grams of peanut butter, 75 grams of oats. It was just this giant pile, like this messy pile of food, and just stirred it up. And it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. So
Nice.
Similar to kind of what you were talking about there.
Yeah.
What is your biggest motivation for maintaining a healthy lifestyle yourself? How do you continue doing it?
I think it's just doing like I want to do the things that I want to do, and I want to do it well. And I started exercising in the gym when I was like 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I played sports and I was competitive, and I wanted to be good. And I wanted to I wanted to run well. I wanted to be strong. I don't just want to do an activity to do it. Like I want to do it to enjoy it and like push myself.
Yeah.
So like my biggest driver is to be fit and functional, that I can do everything I want. Like I do want to do it well. Like I don't want to just like go stand on the paddleboard and like paddle for like 15, 20 minutes and I'm too tired to do it. Like that's great for like anyone who wants to do that and getting out there and doing an activity. But it's like I want to like get out there and paddle for like 2 hours to like at the end of the lake, hang out the beach and like so I want to push myself in those terms. So that's my biggest driving factor right now, I would say.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I would have to probably, if I were to be asked that question, I would probably have a very, very similar answer. I don't want to feel limited. I don't want to feel like I can't do something because of my inaction to get my exercise in and make sure that I'm fit enough to do those things. Like you had a great example of like going paddleboarding. Just virtually anybody can go into a paddleboard and paddle around for a little bit, but do you have like the endurance and the stamina and the fitness to be able to paddle all the way to the other side of the lake and still have the juice to get back and not be totally wiped and everything? So that's pretty sweet. I like that. Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. Mr. Brake, I think that is just about everything that we have here right now. But if people want to be able to contact you, stay in touch, and see your journey and all the information that you're providing, because I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, and you're constantly posting, and on TikTok, you're constantly posting really good, informative, valuable, digestible information for people. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, just follow me at Physio Brake, BRAKE, on TikTok, Instagram. And then if you ever have any questions, you can send a message, just a direct message there, and I get back pretty fast. Leave a comment in the video or something. But yeah, just follow me at Physio Brake at those two platforms I'm mostly on. And it's the best way to get a hold of me or see my journey.
Sweet, man. I appreciate it so much. For everybody tuning in, I just want to say thank you so much for joining and listening in. And if you guys have any questions about how to contact Chris, again, what was it again? At Physio Brake.
Yeah, at Physio Brake, you got it.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks so much, man. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I appreciate you dropping a ton of value for us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, man. It's been great.
Okay. Yeah.